Yeah. And I think this starts by just making sure you have a really good process and talking to people about why are we doing this now? What is going on right now that has us engaged in buying or selling, right? If we can talk through those things, then we can get clarity on where's the best way for me to put my foot forward right now. And then be careful about the creep that happens when we start saying, well, but now how do I make this that 30-year home? Which if it turns into the 30-year home, fantastic. I mean, my parents owned their house for like 35, 36 years before they sold it and moved down here.
Welcome back to 10 where we coach real estate agents into high-performing businesses that fuel their lives. I got my friend Matt Benelli with me again. We've got a great topic for you today. And if it's not sold out yet, come check out 10tenths.co. We have our first event that we're doing in South Carolina. We are so excited to be able to come and hang out with some of our coolest friends that we have built over the time here. And again, we're going to have some fun. So go check that out. If you want to learn more about our coaching, want to learn more about all the cool stuff that we offer at 10 Tenths, go check out our website also, 10tenths.co. Love to see you there. Matt and I will answer any questions if any questions come up. Matt, let's jump right in, man. I'm excited to talk about, are buyers making the right choice out here and how confusing it is to be a buyer, especially when there's more inventory to choose from. There's more opportunities here. What if we choose the wrong one?
So many decisions to make, right? And I'm excited to talk about this today, Garrett, because this is one of the biggest components that I think contribute to stagnant decisions. And this isn't just real estate. This happens every day in our lives. This happens a lot with career decisions too, right? And I want to set just kind of like a foundational point up front that, like, spoiler alert, the conclusion is that whatever choice you make, if you embrace it, it is the quote unquote right choice. And you are unlikely to ever be able to compare with something to actually objectively determine if it was the quote unquote right or wrong choice. So let's focus on how do we make reasonable decisions and embrace those things so that we're actually excited about them. Because I think, Garrett, sometimes people talk themselves into hating the decisions that they make. And that could be a whole personality issue that we need to discuss too for some of you. But like, why do we put that weight on ourselves when we're like, oh, I must have made the wrong decision? It's like, we made it.
You know what's interesting, Matt, is I think that we must have made the wrong decision. That actually typically goes away because the decision-making process is the hardest part. There's a place at which once ownership is developed, now it's yours. This is just it. Think about the last time you sat with your spouse and tried to pick where you're going to dinner. Well, we could go here and we could go here, but I don't know, but what if we went over here? No, we were over there last week. We've already done that. And you go back and forth, and then all of a sudden, the two of you or the group of you go, what about pipeline? And everybody goes, yeah, pipeline, and ownership is done. It's not from that moment going, oh, but what if we, no. Ownership has been taken over this decision. And I think that's where a lot of people in the decision-making process never get to a place, Matt, of taking ownership. But I also don't think they've been given the tools, the questions haven't been asked. And this is where, like, a facilitator, like a realtor, is a really great person to go, I need to ask more questions of these people, because the more I can help them get a little bit of a sense of direction here, I'm just trying to get them to take ownership. The minute they take ownership of this is the path we're going, oh my gosh, decisions become so much easier. They're so much faster. And most people don't regret.
They become so much faster because, essentially what most people are afraid of is the risk, right? The downside, the uncertainty that exists with big decisions like buying a house. And we can't solve those things, right? I think that when you take ownership, you are actually not owning necessarily just the decision. You're owning that there is stuff that I can't control. Yeah, the HVAC might blow out when we move in. This thing might break. Oh, the commute might get worse over time. Who knows? Like, those things are possible. And it's also possible with the alternative decision, right? Everything has pros and cons. And we always say, well, let's weigh them all out. And we can try to weigh them out as much as we can. But at some point, we accept that these are the risks of these decisions. But if I own the decision, I'm going to love the upsides. I'm going to see the upsides. Because here's one thing that I've seen a lot, Garrett, in myself when I make decisions. If I always look backwards at what would have been the upsides of the other decision, it just makes right now miserable because I can't change it anyway. And I actually really have no idea if those upsides would have existed. So why don't I focus on the upsides that exist with this decision? Because that brings a whole lot more joy. And if there does need to be another decision that's made to move us out of the current situation, you're going to be able to see it. Otherwise, you're just trapped. And that sucks.
Well, you look at like the movements that you've made. So when I first met you, you were living in New Jersey in a high-rise apartment. What floor were you on?
When we first met, gosh, I was on 35, I think.
Yeah. So you're living 35th floor in New Jersey, and then all of a sudden you're like, we're going to pick up and we're switching the entire game. We're moving down to South Carolina. We're going to move to Charleston. You got down there, you picked a house, moved into that house. You've made the move now again, and now you're looking at making another move. You've brought this up to me of like, we are getting close and making a decision and being in a new environment right now. And I think this goes back to like all the what ifs you can possibly try to figure out about, let's get a house that's going to fit for us for the long haul. Like we're going to be here. We're going to make one smart decision. We won't have to go back and do this again. And what most people don't understand is life adjusts and life changes and needs change. And all of a sudden, family members get sick and all of a sudden we have to make a decision around that. And all of a sudden the kids start growing up. And what was once like, oh my gosh, we need different schools for them. We need different environments for them. We need to make shifts and adjustments. You can't figure all this stuff out. And this is where the average buyer is frozen sometimes in trying to make a decision. They're trying to look 10, 15 years down the road of like, this is going to be our long-term home. We want to do this once. We want to do it right. How are we going to do it? And that's impossible. And this is the cool part is that, and we've watched it with everybody, is there's that minute that they go, you know what, we just need to move forward. We just need to go and buy that house in that neighborhood. And then you watch them become owners. You watch them quickly all of a sudden go, this is our house. This is our street. These are our neighbors. This is my tree. I remember my friend when he bought his first house here in town, and they searched and searched and searched. And his wife sent me a picture. She goes, look at my grapes. These are my grapes. I own these grapes. And they have this big vineyard on the side of their house. There's an ownership side that we've got to get them to cross that threshold. And again, it's that process up front about all the what ifs. And do they make some sacrifices? Yeah. Are there some things that they didn't maybe get? Yes. But the ownership side makes it all okay. I just watched my mother-in-law do it with her car, buying a new car. We went back and forth of like 4 or 5 different brands. It went from, I think we already talked a little bit about this, but like went from a Honda CR-V to a RAV4. Then we ended up looking at Broncos. And then all of a sudden we're like, what are we doing? Like, this is the car. And she took ownership of it in her mind. And it was like, that's it. Let's go down. Let's go pick up that car. Done. And I'll tell you right now that she's made that decision, she's not looking back going, what if I would have got that car? What if I would have done this? What if I could have spent a little bit less and went this route? She's done. I got my car. I'm not thinking about this anymore. Moving forward, golden. And that's that place we need to help people see of like, this is the threshold we're going to get to where you're going to take ownership.
Yeah. And I think this starts by just making sure you have a really good process and talking to people about why are we doing this now? What is going on right now that has us engaged in buying or selling, right? If we can talk through those things, then we can get clarity on where's the best way for me to put my foot forward right now. And then be careful about the creep that happens when we start saying, well, but now how do I make this that 30-year home, which if it turns into the 30-year home, fantastic. I mean, my parents owned their house for like 35, 36 years before they sold it and moved down here. And like, that was amazing. And there's a lot of other anchors that sometimes get you secured in a spot, which could be a job. It could be schools. It could be a lot of different things. And it's not to say that those things are more important than these other things. What it is what's pushing you right now, and follow that thread, pull at it a little bit. And if it feels right, then it's going to be right. Objectively, there's always going to be somebody who says, why are you doing this? I remember sitting in the real estate office years ago, back when I was in New Jersey, and there was an agent, and he was talking about these clients that he had there, younger clients, and he said, I just don't understand why anybody would buy a house right there, right? And it had to do, like, there was high tension lines, all these things that I would certainly, I'm like, I wouldn't want to buy that house either. But when you start to, I was like, well, let's uncover what else are they looking to manage here, right? Is a new house, right? Okay, there's some things there that are attractive to it. And there are other elements that were maybe drawing people in. Also, the market was changing a lot, right? And people who had seen this market, man, remember when gas used to be just a nickel, that kind of stuff. And I get it. Remember when houses used to actually be like, you could get a mortgage for under $1,000 a month? Remember that? Remember when interest rates were just down in that 3.5%, less than 3%? I get it. However, we can't go back and replay that right now. Not only that, when it comes to real estate, we cannot go and replay the market scenario with the same inventory that we have right now as well. If you buy a house, is there potential that the value might decline in the next year? Yeah, there is. In fact, when you buy a house, theoretically, you're walking into it with a negative asset, negative balance sheet, negative cash flow statement, because if you wanted to go sell that house right away, guess what? There's going to be fees that are associated with selling it, even if you were able to sell it for the same price. So there's always going to be those things. And coming back to this young couple is like, but there was something about it for them, right? And I've seen people buy houses. I remember I sold a house right next to an interstate. A lot of people wouldn't want to buy that. Now, over a decade later, the people who bought it are still happily living there and they love it, right? They love that house. And so the reason why I brought that up is the one caution we want to have as advisors is to not levy our own objections, our own opinions into someone else's process of making a reasonable decision for them. And a decision that may be a short-term one, even if they're thinking long-term. The goal is to just ask them questions, but tell me more about that. Right? And let them talk through the scenario, because once they take ownership, you don't need to own it. If you have them deflecting, right, Garrett, we see this happen all the time. Well, what do you think we should do?
Yeah.
What do
I
think you should do?
By the way, this house doesn't serve any of my needs, just so we're aware. And that's what I think is so unique about homes. And when people are looking for the right home out there, I think my mindset has always been is this a home that will fit us for the next 5 years? Let's just put that on the table. Are we looking for a house that's going to fit us for the next 20 years or for the next 5 years? And I think sometimes, this is a great conversation to have with your buyers, by the way, sometimes you will get lucky and you will end up with a home that will fit the bill for, let's say, 10, 15, 20 years. The one I'm standing in right now, this has been a 15-year house for us. I've never owned a piece of property for 15 years before this one. All my properties have been 3-year turnovers as life have changed, things have changed, kids' schools, jobs, all this stuff shifts as you go through certain parts of your life. And we're finally at a place of, okay, time to make the next move, time to make that next journey. And I think it's, again, if you go into every property with, will this one serve me for about the next 5 years? I can see that. I can see that that's going to work. It's a really safe place to kind of go into. But if you're trying to figure out beyond that, just too many variables. And I think it's a safe conversation to have with your buyers who are trying to figure out beyond that 5 years. It's like, what are all the what ifs that could happen? What's the potential that the company you're working for may not exist in, 5-10 years. I mean, that can happen to anybody. You don't want to freak them out. I'm not telling you to do that. It's not all of a sudden you have somebody going like, oh, I'm scared about buying a house at all now. Thanks.
Well, when I graduated from college, I had 2 job offers from 2 different investment banks. I chose one that a lot of people might have seen as a lesser job. And the other company, well, they didn't exist a year later. So hindsight's like, maybe I made the good choice. Although maybe if I wanted the other thing, would have been picked up over here. The point is, I can't go back and replay those things. So you know what I do instead? Now, at least anyway, is I own the decision that I made and don't, not because, because that bad thing happened. I own it because you know what I learned in that job? You know, the people that I was connected with there, you know, the insight that that gave me to help me make the next big decision that I was faced with in my career years and years later. When you own it in that way, now you get to see the positive, because what worst case, Garrett, we could do the what ifs, but worst case is you make another decision and you move again. I mean, yeah, is it a pain in the butt? Is it going to cost you money? Sure. And is money important? Absolutely. However, if it is the new right decision, it's going to feel right and you're going to make it and it's going to be fine.
And that you use your job opportunity there, Matt. And the crazy thing is, if you would have gone with the other job, you would have owned that decision. You would have celebrated the new job. You would have been in it 100%. And then on the unfortunate side of the company going out of business, you would have then gone, okay, new decision to be made. I have another company that maybe I didn't roll with here a year ago that I could go back and look at that, or we look for a different job. And now you're going to make a new decision and you're going to move forward. And by the way, we all do this. And so like, I'm using Matt as an example, but look back at your life and all the decisions that were made. And once you've taken ownership of it, very rarely will you go back and say, I wish I would have maybe done it a different way. It is always path here moving forward. What's the next future look like? And where do I need to go from here to continue to move to the direction I want to be in my people, my important people around me, and how I'm going to support them. So I think, these are these opportunities. This all comes back to, Matt, a really strong buyer process up front. And I think all of you, as you're starting to work and you're in these contracts with your people right now, if you find people that are in this buyer paralysis, they're just constantly stuck in this area of what if we make the wrong decision, especially as we have more inventory out here in the marketplace to pick from, you would think it would be on the like, well, we only have 4 homes to pick from. And gosh, none of these are perfect. It's funny when there's less inventory, it's like, well, we should probably get one before these get snatched up. When you've got tons of homes, it's like, but what if the new one that comes on tomorrow is going to be the right one? And we're just all of a sudden stuck in a different problem. All this comes down to asking more questions, going through a stronger buyer process, because that allows people to make decisions. And again, we saw it at the dealerships with my mother-in-law. Some of those salespeople asked a lot of questions up front, and some of them were just like, so like, how can we get you in a car by the end of today? Like, how can we, there actually somebody did say that to us. Well, what can we do to help you drive out of here in a car today? And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have not left the 50s. Like, this is one.
Like, well, you can just give me one. That would probably be, if you want to guarantee that for yourself, Mr. Salesperson, just hand over the keys and I will be on my way.
Are we negotiating already? Like, I'm in.
Well, owning the decision too has gotten so much more difficult with the more choices that we have.
Yes.
And I think about the local movie rental, right? When we used to rent movies when I was a kid, you'd go down to the local movie rental shop and you'd see like, oh, are the new releases? Do they have a copy? And if they didn't, it was like, oh, I guess I can't have that. So I'll go watch this movie instead. And you own it. You're like, well, I couldn't have made another decision, so I chose this and we're going to enjoy that movie. Now you go on Netflix and you spend more time watching previews of stuff than you actually do watching anything. In fact, I know sometimes, I've been there where I watch so many previews. I'm like, well, time to go to bed. Didn't even watch anything, right? And it's like, well, at what point do you just say, I'm going to own a decision. I'm going to enjoy this, right? And when it comes to something like real estate, I think it's totally okay, particularly if you have buyers who come to you and say, we're just worried about making the wrong decision. All you have to tell them is, don't worry, you cannot make the wrong decision, right? Not just because I'm here guiding you, just because I know that you cannot make the wrong decision. And if they ask you, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, as long as you own the decision that you make, it's not the wrong one. And you get to move forward. And will it present different decisions for you to make down the road? Sure, it could. That's a potentiality. In fact, that's a potential for any situation that you're in life. But I guarantee you cannot make the wrong decision, because the only thing that levies whether it's right or wrong is your own perspective. No one else can tell you.
You bring up a really interesting point, which is the decisions that we have, the decision options that we have at our fingertips nowadays. And you think about it as a rush. I keep like going back in my head to the little town of Gustine, California that my mom grew up in. They had like one restaurant in town. They had one bar. They had one movie theater. That one movie theater played one movie. It wasn't like there was 10 movies that you could just like, let's go down and watch a movie. And you got to sit there and even pick from that. It was they're showing this movie, and that's what we can go watch.
The movie.
Yeah. And if we want to go out to eat, we go to that restaurant to go out to eat. Otherwise, we eat at home. And if you eat at home, it's a very simple thing of these are the things that we have because this is what we have grown on the farm, and that's it. And that's what we're eating. There aren't these big selections where nowadays we do get into a decision paralysis a lot of times because we have so many options and so many things in so many areas of our life. Funny, Matt, you bring up the TV because I have almost removed my TV back out of our house because of what you just said of sitting there watching previews of shows. And I'm notorious when I find a show that I find even remotely interested that I don't have to make decisions on anymore. It's like, okay, how many seasons of that show is there available right now? So
how long can I pull this out before I'm stuck watching previews again?
How long before I have to go through that horrible process again? And the show that we're stuck on right now is Suits. And I'm starting to lose love for it. Like, it started out as a great show, and I was like, this is bad. Where's this show been? And I don't even know how many seasons are, but I was so excited there were so many seasons. And I'm now to a point of going, okay, I'm getting tired of this show, but I don't want to make a decision, and I don't want to go back through that. So every night we sit down, and Sarah and I are like, should we watch an episode of Suits? Yes. And we're now kind of going like, all right, same problem, same situation, same everything again. And you know what? Tonight we're going to sit down and be like, you want to watch an episode of Suits? Because the decision fatigue for so many of us of that scenario, it's where I think a lot of our buyers are running into that right now is that there are so many options, there's so many things. And again, this is what I go back to of the gift that we have, that all of you have as a realtor, is you get to be the person that gets to sit down with them and say, look, I understand there's a lot of decisions here on the table. There's a lot of neighborhoods to pick from. There's a lot of cities in the United States. You know, you go back 50 years ago, it wasn't about, we have 10 cities to pick from. We had like right here, this is what we were doing. Floor plans. We only had so many floor plans and builders you could pick from. You know, it was a ranch style house. You want to live in that side of town? It's going to be a ranch style house on an acre. That's it. The decisions that are being put at our fingertips right now, own you as a real estate agent, own your job of going, I'm going to ask them enough questions to help them get enough clarity that I'm going to help them find the house for the next 5 years. If I can help them figure that out and just be like, you might get lucky and it might be your 15-year home, that would be incredible. Our goal is to find the 5-year house, which, you know, there's different sales systems out there that say find the house that fits 85% of your needs. You know, if you find that, that's probably your house, which means if it only fits 85% of your needs, there's going to be some things there that you're going, this doesn't quite cover everything. And that means you found the perfect house if it fits 85%. I think it's a brilliant way to look at it. And again, it's helping them find that clarity, because otherwise you just freeze. And you all know your buyers out here right now where you're going, why are they not writing an offer on this house? And they're just over complicating it in their brain, thinking about what all the what ifs are.
Yeah, they do. And I'll say this too, Garrett, with buyers is a lot of times when they start to get the what ifs or what do you think we should do, the worry about the wrong choice, sometimes they're just getting off track of the why. And they start making the choices that happen inside the walls. Well, is the house the right layout? Do we have the right number of rooms? It's like, weren't we buying to be in a school district or to be a certain proximity to your work or to make sure that you're close to the airport because you guys travel a lot? Because let's not lose sight of that, which means regardless of what happens inside the four walls, you're making the right choice because this is the options that we have right now. And that helps them bring back to understanding what is the right or wrong choice for them. Because in those scenarios, maybe the wrong choice for them is to not do anything at all. And although if that's the choice that they end with, it's the right choice. And because the other side of this too, Garrett, is for you to take the pressure off of you as their advisor in putting it all on yourself. Well, I got to make sure they make the right decision. You cannot control that. Only they can control that. you also have to always accept that as well. Now, you can choose not to work with people. That's your own choice to make. And there too, by the way, you are also making the right choice, because I don't want you to turn around and go, oh man, I turned down that listing, but then they went and sold it for more than I thought. Great, cool. You still made the right choice. You freed yourself from the opportunity. And through that choice that you made, you just learned something, which now you can use that for yourself to empower you for the next conversation. So every choice that you make, you're going to learn something, which makes it the right choice at the time. So let's accept that, Garrett. Let's just accept that we're making the right choice.
Yep. Well, and again, I think the more information that you gather allows you to make clearer decisions. So you use the listing as an example. I've watched people that have turned down the listing and it's turned around and sold for the price that we're like, it's never going to sell for that. And all of a sudden it goes under contract.
I was like, whoa.
It happens. And you can kick yourself and do all kinds of stuff. But the other thing is, if you say, okay, did I follow my process? Did I stick to my rules of how I run my business and what I say yes to and what I say no to? And I've always looked at it in those situations, Matt, is that I made a calculated decision that 99.9% of the time is going to take me in the direction that I want to go. It's a safe route to go. I will always be making further, growth in that. The other side, if I were to take it, would have broken my rules and it would have been a risky play. And if I take the risky play every single time, there's danger in running a business if you're constantly taking those things that are outside of the rules of the game. So bringing this back to a buyer, what you're really doing when you're sitting down with them is you're basically saying, what are the biggest things here that if we handle these, if we find these things, it's probably going to be the right house. There's bonus stuff out here that we would like to have. It would be really cool if I could ride my mountain bike out and go get on trails. That would be a huge bonus. Would it be okay though if you had to get in the car and drive your bike out to the mountain biking trails and then you could go ride on it? Like, is that a viable thing? Great. That's a negotiable. Some of these things aren't. The kids' schools are not a negotiable. Having enough bedrooms so everybody has their own room is not a negotiable. Having an office space. Matt, you and I were talking about this today. In our worlds of buying homes, you and I need to have a dedicated office in this house that's separate from the main house so that I can show up, we can do a podcast like this, I can coach people. Those are non-negotiables. Are there other things that would be nice? A pool would really be nice. That would be a bonus. I can see myself sitting out there reading our book of the month, hanging out by the pool, getting a suntan. If it didn't happen though, if that wasn't part of the equation, it's okay. And you've got to know what the negotiables are and what the must-haves are. I was talking to you about me buying I'm looking at buying a truck here in the future. And the only non-negotiable that I have on it is, can it tow enough? Like that is like, it has to be able to tow a certain amount of weight. If it doesn't do that, it's not going to fit the bill for what I need. Bonuses, 4 doors. That would be a bonus. A bonus would be maybe having heated seats and other things in it, maybe leather, bonus stuff. At the end of the day though, I know exactly what it is that is the non-negotiable. And if whatever I get that covers the non-negotiable, I'm going to be happy with it when I take ownership of it. I'm going to be like, good, done. Everything else is bonus stuff. And if you can help your buyers understand that, get into like, what is the bonus stuff that would be awesome to have? What are the non-negotiables? And let's go see if we can cover this base. And if this stuff is here, it's bonus. It's awesome. It's a gift. It might make the home last a little bit longer for you. Maybe.
Maybe. You never know. A lot of things can change. And I think that's where the ownership side is just so important, because you can either make this decision and move to the next phase of whatever life happens after this with the positive mindset of, hey, we made the right choice. And if something changes, like, but now we're faced with this and we're going to make another choice. Or you can go into it with, oh man, we made the wrong choice. And like, you're all depressed and all that stuff. Like, that's on you. And I mean, you guys have listened to us long enough. You know that we like to really err on the side of positivity and optimism. And it's not just because we like that, although I think a lot of people do. Science backs it too. People who are positive and optimistic or try to see the bright side of things, it doesn't mean that you're ignoring downsides, But when you try to see that side of things and take that ownership, you're going to be happier.
Yep.
And it's going to allow you to make the next decision a lot more effectively and efficiently. And if you make a choice where you're like, okay, we need to make another choice, but now we have to kind of ride it out a little bit, it's going to make that riding it out period a lot more enjoyable too.
Yep.
So why not? Own it. You're making the right choice.
Well, and
making the right choice.
I would even take them back to, and there's one last thought on this, Matt, is that it's not a bad idea to go back to, let's talk about your last home that you purchased. Talk about your process that you did to find that house, and talk about what happened when they took ownership of that house, when they made the decision that was their home. For the most part, we don't nitpick apart about all the things that we would have liked to have. I mean, they might be there in the background, but for the most part, we start to say, this is our house. These are the things that we love. The house that I bought, I wanted to be on a cul-de-sac. I did the exact opposite. I bought it on a high traffic corner, which it's a 90-degree blind corner for a lot of people. And it didn't fit the perfect vision. But the things I do love about this neighborhood is that 300 trick-or-treaters coming through on Halloween one of the things that made me fall in love with this house. And you start to pick up on the things that you love. I love that we're on the corner because when I decorated for Christmas and put all my lights out, everybody sees it. The amount of people that stop and comment and come by the house and be like, I love your house on Christmas. If I lived on a cul-de-sac, nobody would see it. And I did not know I was going to enjoy that until I took ownership of this house. And so I think that those are those things you got to kind of keep in mind with people, is that once you take ownership of it, you're going to find all this other stuff you love about it. And as long as you keep doing that, you've got yourself the right house. If you find yourself in downward spiral of looking at all the things you hate about it on day one when you move in, that is not how you should be approaching your next property here.
It's a great point. There's going to be hidden surprises. You got to choose whether those are good surprises or not good surprises, right? You guys have heard us say this a lot. We were saying it now at the end of every podcast episode, and this is what Garrett and I truly believe, is that your business should fuel your life, not consume it. And this topic that we just talked about right here applies 100% to that theory. If you don't want your business to consume your life, own the choices that you make, because it'll always point you towards making sure that your life comes first. And that way, now you have a business, or it'll direct you in the direction of building a business that doesn't consume your life. It actually fuels it. And if you want some help along the way, you can come join us inside of our community. Just go to 10tenths.co. You can look at all of our options there. You can join our inside track, which is really awesome and robust. If it hasn't transformed by this point, when this podcast gets released, it's happening very, very soon. And it's going to have so much more awesome stuff in there, where you can ascend up into our 11 Circle group coaching program. But don't miss out on Limitless, our event that's coming up. If we have a few extra seats available, go check the landing page there, and you will find out if there's a seat left, literally a driver's seat left for you, because we'd love to see you in Greenville in a BMW driving around a track with us. That would be a ton of fun. So, Garrett, thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. As always, thank you, everybody who tuned in, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much.